For the last presentation, it will be in English, so if you understand English, you will be able to follow. If not, at least you can watch the slides. After the presentation, we'll have lottery, and you will get a chance to win some boards after it. So my presentation will be about basic guidelines on router configuration and debugging. So I will speak about some common practice, how you can secure your router and how you can make it better. The first and the most important point of my presentation and even about MikroTik goal, that every device has MikroTik router OS and it is the same everywhere. So when you buy a small device, it has MikroTik router OS. When you buy expensive device, it has MikroTik router OS, and all features of MikroTik router OS are available everywhere. So you just need to have a power to use them properly and configure your devices in a correct way. So let's start with the management tools and with options that you can use for router OS configuration. So basically, there are 4 configuration tools, and you can divide them in 2 groups. So the most used one, the one that we used, is Winbox. It is a special tool that is running on Windows, but still you don't have any problems to run it on Linux, even on MacOS. It runs on every operation system. You just need to make sure that you configure it properly. Maybe it is with Wine, maybe it is another way, but Winbox is easiest and the best way to configure MikroTik router OS. Then we have Webfig. This is similar to Winbox, but it is done by web interface. So it means you can configure MikroTik router OS from your mobile phone, iPad, Samsung tablet, or any other device. It almost has the same commands as Winbox. Maybe just few of them are not so advanced like in Winbox. Then we are making TCAP, and TCAP is an application for Android. So if you are using Android, you can download that app and configure your MikroTik router device with this TCAP. It is still in alpha stage. We are pushing it to be published soon in regular Google Play Store, and then maybe we'll take a time to take an app for iPhones. And then, the most advanced one is a console. So everything you can configure from console, from router OS console. You can get a console from Winbox, you can get a console from regular terminal, connect to your device by SSH or Telnet, and put all the commands. When you might be afraid about router OS console, that it is very requires a deep knowledge, it may be not so true at some points. And if you have console commands, they can be easily transferable to Winbox. So each console command has its same way how you configure it in Winbox. Later, with a few examples, I will explain how it is related. So the fastest configuration, though, can be applied by QuickSet. When you buy your router, especially if it is the router for small office and home office, you have an option when you connect for the first time to your device. There is a QuickSet menu where you can apply some predefined configuration. Everything that should be applied is available on one page, and you can set all necessary basic configuration from QuickSet and move your router to the production network and use it there. But despite that QuickSet is easy to use and that it contains configuration that is usually enough for 90% of users, you should be careful with it. If you are using QuickSet, that you should use QuickSet. as soon as you will try to use Winbox or other management tools, we suggest to use Winbox or those other management tools that you're using. So if you use Quixent, make sure that you use Quixent all the time. The next part of the presentation is simple steps how you can secure your router, how everybody can secure the router. I think that if you're advanced network administrator, you should know like 90% of the steps that will be explained, but we still hope that you will get some interesting points that you can apply in your routers later. So the first and the most obvious one is to set a password for your router, but the second, which is not might be so obvious at some points, that we suggest to change default login to your router to at least your name or maybe a different name. Because if you have a router that is open for public, usually attackers or brute force persons, they will try to get access to your router by standard username, and they will try to access the router by standard username. As soon as you put your name as a password, as a name for a router, it is much more difficult for that person to guess actually your name. Or if it is not your name, but like some part of the network name, it is even better. So it is important to change the name of admin to a different one for configuration. The next step for the security is setting wireless password, or so-called WPA2 pre-shared key. It is actual for wireless routers. When you have wireless router, we suggest that you set that security key, because it will help you in both ways. First, it will like be a password for your wireless network. So wireless client that is connecting to your network will need to put that password into his device. And second, which is, from my opinion, is more important, that communication between access point and your client will be encrypted. So it means that when somebody will try to sniff or catch data that is going between your device and access point, this data will not be readable, it will be encrypted. And so this is additional layer of protection for your network and for your clients. The next step that we suggest to do for you to do is to set a security for the interfaces. So imagine you have a router with 5 interfaces. Especially here on the MAM, we also have a router with 5 interfaces. And at one point I noticed that somebody is plugging his router to our router. So if I disable all unused interfaces, like I keep only active interfaces, I keep my router secure from unauthorized access from other persons. So disable interfaces might help for the cases when your router is in a public location and you can secure it from other bad persons that might access your router. Like I said before, like console and Winbox commands are very similar, because in my slide I have a console command like interface Ethernet disable either 3 either 5, and in Winbox the command is the same. I just go to the interface list. I might go to Ethernet, or I can stay in the interface list, and I just click on the interface and click to disable the interface. So basically, in the same way are working all routers commands. So you can, in that way, translate console commands to Winbox commands. The next step of security, and maybe not like security, but the step how you can free your router's resources is by disabling all unused packages. So when you have a router with default configuration, default package set, might be you don't need some packages. For example, if you have CCR board and you are not using wireless controllers, there is no need to use wireless package. You disable wireless package and you free some resources for other application on your device. If you don't need hotspot, you disable hotspot package. If you don't need DHCP server and DHCP client, you disable DHCP, and by that way you can save some RAM and CPU for your device. The next step, how to secure your router, is checking all the services that are used by a router. Not like all, but mostly of services of servers that are enabled on routers are located in IP service list. And what we are suggesting for sure is to disable telnet. As if you have a telnet access to your device, somebody can run a sniffer and get username and password like in a few seconds. If you are logging to your router, then that person uses username and password to log into your router, change the configuration. Then your customers are very unhappy, you are very unhappy. So disable telnet whenever you are using the router. And then on that service list, you have an option to change a port. So if you, for example, want to change a port for SSH, you instead of 22, you write like 20,252. So you will know this port, and the person who will maybe will try to access your router, he will need some time to find out what port is used for SSH access. As well, in this list, there is an option available from. You can put an IP address there, like your IP address, and then only you from this IP address will be able to use this service. So this is like double protection from unauthorized access to your router. Then a few more suggestions how you can secure your router. First of all, by default, on every device we have Mac server enabled. So you can access your device by MAC address from Mac Winbox or Mac Telnet. And if you already configured this router and you know that you won't need access by MAC address, you can disable access at least from public networks, as maybe you are not using public networks to access your router, so there is no need and there is no reason for person from public network to connect to your router by MAC address. So you remove that interface and you put your interface that you want be able your router accessible over public networks. And one more thing that you can also set, it is just that is not mentioned in those slides, but you can also adjust the MAC address of your device. So you can put different MAC address, and then person will not be able to guess that you are actually running MikroTik router's device. One more option where you can secure your router by disabling neighbor discovery. Neighbor discovery is a special protocol in MikroTik where you can see all the neighbors. And it is suggested for sure to disable neighbor discovery on public interface, and then later you can consider where you need that access by neighbor discovery protocol on which interface, and adjust appropriately access by the interfaces. Then few more options how you can secure your router. So first of all, if your router has a COM port, you have an option to disable it. So if your router is in a public network, maybe it is a good idea to disable COM port in order you want to avoid unauthorized access by your router, like person can net install your router, can rest the configuration or do any other bad things to your router. Then we have few routers with LCD panel, and it is up to you. Either you need that LCD or no, because if you like have a router in a server room or maybe in a public location, LCD might not be necessary. So it is also from us suggested that you disable that when you don't need it. Then it is like a good rule to place your router in a secure location, because if you place a router in a secure location, first of all, anybody can steal it. Then anybody can get, or at least try to get access to your device, change the configuration, get user data, any possible combination of data stealing can occur. So it is a good idea to place router in a secure location. The next thing, if you have a router on not so trusted location, you can at least protect your device by protecting reset button. As almost every router has a reset button, and by setting different reformat hold button, you protect your router from being like, if an authorized person gets that router and try to push reset button, it will not work in a standard way, but that person will need to hold the button for the time that you put. But just make sure you don't get lost access to your router, as if you lost access to your router by any way, you will need, like, in the same way, to guess how many times you put in the reset button. So so if it is like 5 minutes, you will need to hold the reset button for 5 minutes and to get it back to the operation. So this is like some suggested steps for the security. As well, I suggest to visit wikimicro.com. We have suggestions for security, suggestions for all other configuration things that you can apply on your router. Then we will talk a little bit about firewall. So firewall, MikroTik firewall by default is operated by 3 chains. So it has 3 chains to work with the traffic in 3 different type of traffic. So we have input. In input you get all the traffic that is going directly to the router. Then we have forward, so-called client traffic, where is all traffic that is going through the router, and for most cases it is client traffic. And we have output that it is for traffic that is generated by router itself. By default, if you don't have any firewall configuration from default configuration, then by default routers has accept at the end. So if you have any rules in your firewall, it means that everything is being accepted. And there are like 2 popular approaches how you configure firewall. So you accept everything that is trusted, like all the IP addresses that you want to accept and so on, and drop at the end all other traffic that is untrusted. And another option is that you block all untrusted traffic, like you block specific ports, specific viruses ports and so on, and then allow all other traffic that is going to your router. So as I said, there are 3 chains, and first chain is input. So to secure access to your router, you can put some configuration rules. These 3 rules are accepting pings to your router from any network. Then we set to accept established and related packets. It is a very important rule, because this rule allows to free much resources on your device, because there is no reason like to check all packets that are going to your router or through your router, but there is a reason to work with new packets. So you filtering new packets and accepting those packets that are already accepted, and by that way you are saving some RAM for your device. And the third rule is dropping connection from public interface. So if you don't have any service like DNS or similar, you just drop everything from either one, and by that way nobody from public network can access your router. For certain reasons you might need to apply more advanced configuration for your firewall, as a bad person might live also in your local network, and you may add additional rules of security for your firewall chain input. But at least you can start with these 3 rules that are also here are listed in the Winbox menu. The next is securing your customers' traffic, customers that are connected to your router and that are operated through your router. So the first rule is to accept established and related packets. So remember that we are working only with the new packets. We are accepting everything, all other traffic by that rule. And then we suggest to drop invalid packets because invalid packets are the packets that doesn't belong to any of the connection, to any of the established connection before on your router, and there is no need or reason to accept such traffic. That's why we drop it. And then we, by the third rule, we accept all the traffic from our clients that are connected not to interface either one. Either one in our case is a public interface. So we are accepting all traffic from our clients by the third rule. And this is how it looks. Then the next point of a firewall is a NAT. As all previous rules were in the IP firewall filter. Filter is used to filter packets, and NAT is used to make network address translation for the packets. And there are two types of NATs. One is a source NAT, when you are changing source address and source port of your packet. Another one is destination NAT, when you are changing destination address and destination port of your packet. And if you put a rule that is listed here, like when you masquerade all the traffic, it is used for local networks that are using, for the most cases, private addresses. It is applicable for IP version 4, and this is also a way how we save public addresses in global network, but also it is a great way how you protect your customers, because when you don't have public address on a customer interface, it means that nobody can access or nobody can connect to that private address. Private address doesn't exist in the public networks, and some bad people from public networks will not be able to access to your client device directly. And so this is the way how you protect your customers and devices. This is a firewall, even not a firewall, but a packet flow table. In short, it is the way how packets are going through MikroTik router. And this table explains where you need to look and how you need to look on the packets when somebody is not working properly, or when you apply some filtering or not, and something is not working properly. So this is a table that you need to look. And it is available on our wiki by Packetflow. And this is like, you can say it like road rules for all packets that are entering MikroTik router. So this is the way how packets go through it. So, and there are different type of NAT, like I explained it. So the first one is destination NAT. This first rule is to make when you have some local server in your network and you need to provide access from public networks to this server. So you just make a NAT, destination NAT. You transferring port number 22 that is coming to a public address, which is 1.243, and then you just configure your local address, and your server in the local network will get these SSH packets, and you will be able to access your device remotely by SSH. But be careful to provide direct SSH to your servers, as all other people might try to get access to your device. Then a few more interesting usage of MikroTik firewall. Recently we introduced support for DNS names. So in an address list you can block, or not block, but filter by DNS name. So this example shows how you can filter traffic that is going from Facebook.com. you add necessary address to address list, and MikroTik firewall together with the DNS cache make a resolving for all addresses that are used by the specific DNS name, and put all of those addresses to address list. And then later you just apply a firewall rule with accept, drop, or lock, whatever you want, and filter the traffic to the DNS name. And you don't need to use layer 7 in this case. Layer 7 comparing to this feature is much resource consumptive, so this should be better how you can block by DNS name specific pages. This is a firewall example that I think was already shown by the last presentation before the lunch, but just to go quickly over it. So if you want to allow access to your router by SSH, for example, this example is really for telnet port 23, and it works in a way like that. Usually you don't have much more new telnet connection to your router within 1 minute. You access your router, you put necessary configuration, then you close the connection, that's all. But if somebody is accessing your router more than one session within 1 minute, it is being considered as a bad person, and we are adding him to address list for 10 days, and do not allow access by 23 port for 10 days. So by that you protect your router from brute forces who may try to guess a password or do some other bad things to your device. And then you just add those rules, and only one SSH or telnet connection or whatever port you will choose will be allowed to your device. The next step is bandwidth control. So there will be some few suggestions how you can ensure or how you can improve bandwidth over your device. So the first thing is fast track. So fast track is very important, especially on small devices, small routers. Fast track make connections and traffic go much faster over your device. As if you have default configuration, router is processing all packets, and all packets are being accounted somewhere, and it takes some time and resources to process all those packets. By fast track, you can make some packets that you believe to be trusted to work and to go through a router in a much faster way. So by adding this rule on router board like 2011 or Hub IC, you will get too much time more performance. So it is a great way how to get bigger traffic over your router with just one simple rule. This is how it looks like, and all those packets are being fast-tracked, and you get higher and faster bandwidth over your device. Then the next big point, how to set a limitation to a packet, or how to apply some bandwidth limitation for your traffic, is queues. Queues has only 4 sections, but actually queues allows you to set so many different configurations. So usually there is no place where you can stop improving your queues in different ways. The easiest way how you can configure a queues, you just use simple queues and put a limitation for the specific user. You put in the target that IP address and you set a max limit. But then you can improve queues by setting priorities, by setting limited, and applying different other configuration. One of the best from our point of view is a specific queue type that is called PCQ, because it allows you to make some interesting configurations. For example, by PCQ you can set a dynamic bandwidth limit for your network. Imagine you have like 200 clients connected to your local network, and you have, let's say, 50 megabits of traffic available. And all those users are not online all the time. So if you set like 1 megabit for each of them, it means that we reserve 1 megabit for a specific client. By PCQ, we set 50 megabits, and this traffic is being equally distributed between those clients. And when we have 2 clients, we get 25. When we have 10 clients, we each get 5 megabits, and so on. As well, PCQ can be used for other type of configuration. Let's imagine you have 1,000 clients on one router, and you want to provide like 1 megabit for each user. If you configure queue simple in a regular way, it means that you will have 1,000 queues. 1,000 queues is not a very effective way how you can configure your device. That's why you can make one PCQ queue that will distribute this 1 megabit to every client, and router will work much faster just with one queue, not with 1,000 queues. The other configuration examples you can find on the NoWiki. One of the links is listed here. The presentation will be available online, so you will be able to click on that link and see the configuration that is provided there. Just before going to debugging tools section, there is also a queue tree. In the queue tree you can apply advanced configuration, and there are queue types where you can set up different queuing algorithms and different methods how you can limit your client's bandwidth, as it is the way how mostly ISP work, as we apply some bandwidth limitation, because sometimes it is not too proper way to provide all the bandwidth to all the clients. The next section is the debugging tools. So there will be like 2 parts. One part will be about the tools that you can use in MikroTik routers to debug your network and to debug maybe some possible problematic points. And the first step where you should begin researching what is wrong with your device is logs. So logs are showing what is going on in your router. By default, there are like 4 types of the logs that are enabled, but you can get much more logging by enabling it in system logging. System logging is responsible for logs that are being enabled on your router, and when you want to get some more deep information about what is going on in your router, you enable topic with a debug. Debug usually includes much more information. You like put DHCP debug or L2TP debug and get much detailed information what is going on your router. And there are like 4 ways how you can store the logs. By default, all logs are stored in RAM. So when you reboot your router, all logs are being erased, and the router is starting writing logs from the beginning. But if these logs are important to you, you can save them to disk. If you're saving logs to disk, then they will not be cleaned on the reboot. Or even better, we suggest to send all the logs to remote syslog server, so you can later see what is going on with logs and what is going on with the router. And you can do it in a system logging action. And on routers there is a section that is called logs, and you can see what is actually happening. And on that device somebody is trying to access or to guess the password by SSH. So you can later, by looking at those logs, consider your actions, either block SSH or limit SSH, so it's up to you. The next powerful tools for debugging of your router is Torch. So Torch is showing, or is a way how you can see the packets that are going over your router in real time. So Torch allows you to select the interface, and then you select like source and destination address protocol, and see what kind of traffic is going over that interface. There is transmit and receive rate, and also transmit packets and receive packets. So you can see if somebody like sending some extensive data over your device, you can control it over. You can see it over tools in Torch. When you see and your identified person is like sending some traffic, and you want to get more detailed information, what is this? You can run a sniffer, and the routers allows you to select interface on which you will run a sniffer, put some other configuration like to get sniffer only for the specific IP address. As well, you can save that sniffer file to a file, and then later open it in Wireshark and see what is going on your device. As well, it is possible to send all sniffer traffic to your server. So, for example, you want to see all the traffic on a specific interface, you configure sniffer and send all data to your Linux server, and then later, if somebody like police asks you for the data, you can look what is going on there. One more important part of debugging tools is Profiler. So in the Profiler you can see what type of processes are loading your CPU. So if you see that CPU load is not like it should be, you can go to a Profiler and see what are the processes that are loading your CPU at the moment. Then the next part is graphing. So RouterOS has built-in graphing options when you can monitor CPU, memory, and disk load. So this is a good way how you can see if everything is good with the router. So you just analyze those logs for CPU or for memory, and if there are spikes or if there are some abnormal activity, then you can later get more advanced tools for debugging and work with them. As well, for the graphing, you can send all the interface traffic and the queues that you configured on the router. But as well, RouterOS has SNMP. So with SNMP, you can send some more detailed information about packets and everything that is going on your router for a specific moment of time, and then later analyze it on your SNMP device. Then we have ZDUT. ZDUT is a MikroTik network monitor tool. It has very different advanced features that you can use for monitoring your network. And by that you can draw diagrams, put a real network map, put all your network devices, all your MikroTik devices on that, and monitor and send some alarms, like ZDUT can send you an email when some of the device going down. ZDUT can send you an SMS when, for example, specific router has drop in the voltage. The possibilities of ZDUT are almost endless, and all the information how you can configure is available on the wiki for the topic that is called ZDUT. So we are almost to the last part of this presentation, and there are like few suggestions from MikroTik support how you can make sure that your router is working properly. If it is not working properly, how you can proceed and how you can debug your device and help us to help you when you contacting us by support@mikrotik.com. So first of all, we always suggest to keep the latest version of MikroTik RouterOS on your device, as the latest so-called current version has all the latest features that are and all the latest fixes that are known by the current day. So it is the latest full release, and we suggest to use the current one. If you have important network that is very sensitive for upgrades, we suggest to use bugfix version. It is a version that is the most stable for the specific day. It is being tested for a long time, and if we find out some major issues with bugfix version, we release a new bugfix version that contains only the fixes for this specific major issue. And when you upgrade your router, you have an option to select a channel. So you can upgrade the router automatically from in the Winbox. You go to System Packages and click on Update, and you get such menu where you can select a channel and then upgrade your router automatically. When you decided to upgrade to newer version, you see like here we can upgrade to 6.38.5, and it as well prints a changelog, so we can consider either we need this upgrade or no. And then you click on download and install, and a newer version will be installed on your router after reboot automatically. So what we can do when software MikroTik router OS stops working. So as it's a router board device, you have a few steps how you can fix your device. So if your device is not responding, you are like not able to connect it by Winbox or in some other way, you may try to use reset button. So first you can try to run backup router boot. You will need to hold reset button for 2 seconds and apply power, then hold that button for 2 seconds, release it, and backup router boot version will be loaded. If you still doesn't have access, if you still don't have access to your router, you can run net install. Net install is a special program that allows you to reinstall MikroTik router OS. And by default, you have an option by reinstalling your device when you can select to keep old configuration. So you keep old configuration if you don't have backup or you didn't save the configuration before, and then you reinstall your device by net install. Sometimes we get emails to support that, oh, I am not able to reinstall my device by net install. So try to reinstall any other working router by net install just to make sure that net install is actually working. If net install doesn't help, you may try to reset the device. So there are multiple ways how you can reset the device, but one of them you hold reset button for like 5-6 seconds, and it will reset your device, your MikroTik router's configuration, and you might be able to get access to your router then and put necessary configuration to get your router back to operation. Then some of the boards might have serial port. So if your device has a serial port, most of Soho devices doesn't have serial port anymore. You can check what is going on your device by a serial port. So maybe it will print out some useful information. If serial port is giving you nothing, then most likely you will need to exchange this device and put a new device, and then you will need to find a way how you can fix your current device. So if you have configuration issues, or if you have a configuration issue for a specific device, or even if you look on that point in a more broad view, if you have some issues, if you have a network that you want to configure but you don't have enough knowledge, we suggest you contact MikroTik certified consultant. As well, it is possible to get help from the distributors, but if you have extensive network that you want to get some help, we suggest that you contact our certified consultant and explain to them everything that you want to achieve, and they might be able to help you. As well, as I said in my first presentation, it is useful to contact, not to contact, but to post and to ask for help on our forum. Sometimes there are very knowledgeable users who are very happy to help you. And our wiki page has configuration examples for almost every RouterOS feature, so you can study RouterOS features there and get the idea how they are working. And few last steps when you have hardware issues, when you have issues with the router board. So first, if you have some issues with the hardware, that it doesn't power or something doesn't work, so we suggest to start with replacing involved accessories. Like first step is to check power adapter, to try another power adapter that might be the issue why your router is not starting. If your router is in power over Ethernet, you check this router with another power over Ethernet adapter and another power supply and see maybe it will fix your issue. Then change all cables, like change Ethernet cables, change SFP cables, any cables that might be involved. Maybe there is an issue with the cable itself. If some interface is not working like SFP module or wireless card, try with another SFP module or wireless card and maybe everything will start to work. And as well, if you tried everything, like to change the whole power adapter, PoE and everything, and still your router board is not booting up, you might consider to use another different power source that might be that might fix a problem at the end. So few suggestions from us when you contact us, MikroTik support, support at mikrotik.com. Usually we provide the help when you have configuration issues or RouterOS issues, when some of the features are not working properly or not working in the way like we promise it. So few of software issues that sometimes we get. So if your configuration is not working properly, for us it is important to get logs and support output file. Usually we ask to get support output file from the latest version because maybe your software issues that you have in an older version is already fixed. That's why when you contact us, make sure you have the latest version and provide us with logs and support output file, and we will see what is wrong. Then another issue that might be possible or that might be present on your device is when your device is getting out of memory. So if you have such devices that doesn't have RAM on specific point, make sure that you can repeat the same problem on the latest RouterOS version. Then reboot your device, make support output file when your router is in normal operation. And when your RAM is almost full, make one or two another support file and send them to us. So we'll look into it and see what could be wrong. When your device freezes, or like when you lost access to your device in some specific point, as well upgrade your RouterOS version to the latest version, just to make sure the problem is not present on the latest version. Connect a serial console or monitor your device by the tools that we explained before. Make support file. Especially it is very good if you make support file when you have a problematic situation or after problematic situation. If you have serial access, copy as the serial output that you have during the problem and send the file to us. If you have other kind of issues, for example, improper reboot or any other, as well, make sure you have the latest version on your device. Repeat the program. If you can provide us with the steps how you can repeat the problem, it is great. It will save us a lot of time to repeat your problem as well, and provide us with support output file. So when you are contacting us by email, please send your problem with a brief explanation. Sometimes people are sending us like 10 pages of text, and actually the problem is explained within 2 paragraphs. So by that we like not using our time effectively, so it is much better that you explain your problem in a brief manner. Include all files that we are asking from you, like support output file and problem description or serial output. If you like, we are telling you that please change this configuration and put that configuration, and you've done everything and you have the same problem still, reply to us with the new files, with a new configuration, and say that I've done this, and still my problem is present, and we will later look for solution together. And if you are replying to the same problem, it is suggested that you reply within the same ticket. So use a ticket number. It will help us to get your reply in a much faster way. So this is just a few steps that I wanted to share with you today. As I said, you are welcome to visit our wiki.microtik.com page. It contains all configuration example, all features described there. If you have some advanced problems, issues, or you want to get some experience, visit our forum. And our MikroTik.com and YouTube MikroTik and YouTube.com for MikroTik channel has very interesting presentation from a previous